Good evening. Welcome to Defacto Review, a weekly in-depth analysis into the news and current affairs here in Mongolia. Mr. Jagasakhan is off this week, and I'm joined by Dr. Ahtuntugus from the National University of Mongolia. She's an economist, and welcome to the studio.
Thank you for inviting me.
And I'm Anand Tumurtov for MMB World. And you can join in the conversation on Twitter and on Facebook on MMB World. And we're live on Facebook on MMB World. Today in our program, the second week of May is the Taxpayers' Day. During that time, tax services and public relations are promoted and tax laws are reviewed. We will discuss Mongolia's integrated tax management system. This year's Through Women's Eyes Forum discussed the air pollution and what are its effects on mothers' and children's health. Will the new independent authority against corruption head go against politicians who misappropriated funds from the SME Development Fund? On to our first topic. In recent years, the nation's tax system has been changed, and which allows the residents of Mongolia to scan codes on their receipts to receive the value-added return, and this was updated. In addition, the state's tax revenue was held by the commercial banks, but is now going to consolidated state funds. So my first question to you, Doctor, that what is the integrated tax management system?
So this is the kind of the becoming a step closer to e-government thing, which means that previously that tax employees, tax administration worked in the separately, collected separately the tax from the business entities and individuals in 21 IAAC in 9 districts independently, separately. And at the end of each month, they worked hard to consolidate all data, all the tax revenue into a single account. So now it's becoming more technologically advanced.
Digital.
Becoming digital. And so everyone who works in tax office in the OPSAMEC or UB office working on the same page at the same time. And whatever happens within the system can be controlled and managed, by the general office.
So previously, then you're saying that we used to consolidate the taxes by hand or manually, or send it.
No, not by hand, but by the Excel, using the Excel program and sending it by internet to the UB office, the general office. But the tax office is adopting this system a little bit later compared to other organizations. I remember about 12 or 13 years ago, Customs Office, General Customs Office adopted single, that management system, integrated management system. So then Office, the General Authority of the Social Insurance also adopted the system. So now all this bigger the data and tax collectors are adopting this integrated tax system. All the 3 systems, 4 or 5 systems also integrating with each other and also becoming more closer to that policymakers and Ministry of Finance people and also central bank people, policymakers. And also it will be in the future, very near future, it will be integrated to that state-generated, public-generated data system, which is called HOR. So it will make more progress towards e-government.
So how does this benefit maybe the Mongolian public and also maybe foreign investors when the system becomes more integrated, as you say?
So it will be very beneficial, not only domestic, but also international foreign investors, I think, because of course the system will have the English version, so they can use and manage their account not only from here, from other countries, from their other offices, and will be very efficiently use the system by sending requests in English, or sending requests or sending complaints about or tax payment, or taxpayers will economize on the cost of going there, paying there, or delivering the paper report, paper tax payment into the respective local offices. So it will also create more efficient use of time and money, and also somehow it will connect not only the tax offices, but it will connect taxpayers from the other side and tax offices from one side. So it will kind of very good definition that integrated system, I think.
So also, besides that, the tax revenue used to be held by the commercial banks. Now it's being consolidated into one state fund. And what is this? Is this the right move from taking away, putting the taxes into these commercial banks, but taking away from the commercial bank and putting it into the state fund? Is this the right move, basically?
Oh, I think because of this, tax office, general office is trying to create an integrated system.
Yeah.
They're trying to also integrate the tax revenue side, because tax revenue was placed in the commercial banks within up to 40 or 45 accounts. So they wanted to integrate, bring it to a state fund, a state bank under one wing. And making it more easier to manage, control, and administrate this kind of accounts.
So you're saying this is a good move, not a bad move, then?
No. I don't think it's the single one, very positive outcome will bring, because it will kind of create. It will be easier for the state fund, state bank, and Ministry of Finance. It will be easier, but it kind of, in economist language, it will be crowding out. It will crowd out that activities by the commercial banks. The state bank will become much larger and larger in the future, and commercial banks need to compete against the state funds, state account. So it will create some kind of not so good competitive environment in the banking system, I think.
So you talked about so the good side of this integrated system. Maybe can you tell us what may be the downsides of this integrated, and also maybe give us what are the biggest problems that the tax system is facing at the moment?
At the moment. So many problems. Of course, in like any other countries, we have many problems in tax side. The economy is growing, becoming more expanding, which means that the tax problems also expanding. For example, the country has about 23 types of the tax needs to collect. But very few types of tax are collected from very few larger companies, larger business entities. For example, 89% of total tax revenue is generated by only 4,000 large and medium-sized business companies. Remaining only 2% is generated tax income is generated by more than 50,000 small and medium-sized enterprises.
I see.
Which means that we have very narrow tax base. So tax problem in this country at this moment is to expand tax base. What I mean is that the country government needs to collect tax from everyone, from each one, who creates value, who adds value. For example, from the herders, maybe herders don't pay tax. So herders also willing to pay tax because they're seeing also government services. They are very willingly pay taxes. So since the Ministry of Finance is adopting this single, the integrated system of tax management, it would be easier to collect the tax from everyone. For example, we don't collect much money on the tax on property sale. Property sale, for example, usually people, when somebody sells the apartment to other person, they say it's kind of the gift.
Yes.
Under category of gift, it doesn't generate tax. So kind of things needs to be corrected, and more tax revenue needs to collected from each one. Also, second problem is that moral hazard problem, as we economists call it, because every 5 or 6 years that government is issuing some law that makes the companies who didn't pay their taxes on time pay off, or pay very little, very kind of sum of the money. So they are considered to be tax payment free, the problem free companies becoming, which means that we don't know what companies are receiving that kind of treatment. They don't pay taxes for 4 or 5 years, and after 5 years or on the 6th year, because of the law is adopted, they can go free of charged by crime or some the tax authority correction activities.
And do you think this integrated tax management system will correct that? Maybe?
I think because this tax management system will correct this the behavior of this medium or large size companies. I hope that the level of the corruption on this sector will be minimized.
Last word. When will we see the benefits of this integrated tax management system?
I think even the next 2 or 3 years.
Next
I think.
2 years, okay.
Because next 2 or 3 years.
Okay, I hope we'll see that outcome again, as you said, in the next two years. Moving on to our second topic, the Mongolian Female Monfemnit National Network held its 13th National Forum of Through Women's Eyes, and this time the forum was held under the name Air Pollution and Children and Maternal Health. At the forum, participants discussed the harms and the consequences of air pollution. Representatives from different sectors and communities, including the civil society organizations, international organizations, participated. Even though Mongolia has spent more than 550 million tugrux on reducing air pollution within the past 10 years, we're still breathing toxic air. And so, my question, so we spent all of this money and we still have not seen the outcomes.
Yeah.
And how does this air pollution, what kind of toll does it have on regular people, basically? Even though we spend so much this money, and how will this affect other, like regular Mongolians' bank, basically?
For example, half of the population lives in the cities.
Yes.
More than half. Not only in Newby, in the other cities, in IAAC centers.
Like Darkhan.
So in Darkhan, in Erdenet. So because of the air pollution, there is we observing the increasing number of the illness, sickness among the children, young mothers. We have increasing number estimating the increasing number of the stillbirth and delayed pregnancies and respiratory illness among the very young children aged from 0 to 5. So because of that, in the last few years, we are having increasing trend of the infant mortality rate under 5, which will be very basic and very strict indicator how our society is dealing with children's health. So that indicator is declining, it's worsening. So that's because of the air pollution. Also, not only the children and mothers in the people are having the problem in the health problem, increasing money on spent on this problem.
Yes, with regular people, right?
Regular people, just ordinary families. For example, if you have a child, 2 years old child, 1 year old child, your child is in hospital because of sickness, because of the air pollution. He or she needs to stay there up to 10 days at minimum. So during these 10 days, the mother or father can't work. Because they can't work, they can't receive the monthly salary in full. So which means that the income level of that family goes down, which means that it will increase the number of poor families, not only in Gir district area, and also that in the apartment living area.
So are you saying that air pollution will make more poor people?
More poor people. We call it intergenerational poverty, poor people. So first generation who lives in the Gir area, who breathes this toxic air, who is not enough healthy, then they can't make enough money to give their children to live very healthy life. They get for their children good education, good health. The second generation will have very little human capital. Human capital means health plus education. Very little human capital. Second generation won't have much higher income compared to other children who lives in nice area, who lives in apartment area. So this second generation will have lower income. They won't break out from the cycle of poor living conditions. So we'll have second generation of poor families who will live in the Gir area, who will still have breathe this toxic area, and that will huge problem in the future.
So you attended this forum, and as I mentioned before, policymakers were also at the forum. And what did they say about what kind of policies they will take to protect these groups, basically mothers, children, and also poor people?
So this public officials who presented at that conference, they are declaring that the government has a short-term and medium-term and long-term goal how to reduce air pollution. So for the short-term goal is to try to distribute more, the stove that will benefit the families who will live in Gir area, like smoke-free stoves or electric appliance that will use that during night time to make during winter time the Gir area more warm, to keep more warm. By the medium-term goals, the government by the long-term goals, government is trying to borrow money from international organizations and use also taxpayers' money, their own budget, to try to lift out more families from the Gir area to transfer to place them to buy them the apartments. So in this way only we can in the future reduce air pollution. Otherwise, just using that nighttime free of charge electricity or distributing smoke-free stoves won't solve this problem.
Do you think this is a problem of the government, that the government basically failed the people of Ulaanbaatar?
Yeah, I think so. As economists, you just said that 550 billion tugrik was spent on reducing air pollution. It didn't go away. It didn't go away, which means in our economist language, it wasn't cost-effective measure. It wasn't cost-efficient policy. 550 billion tugrik. From out of the 500 billion tugriks, about more than 300 billion tugrik is not our money, it was loan. It was loan. We used loan from the World Bank. We used loan from the Asian Development Bank and spent all this loan on the air pollution reduction. But it didn't work, which means that in the future, we need to pay this 400 billion back to the World Bank, back to the Asian Development Bank. Not only this generation, maybe the next generation will pay off.
No.
That's the very not so good in cost, not so cost-effective way to solve problem from the government side.
So wrapping up this topic, how can the regular Mongolian citizens secure their health from air pollution? Some people say that some of the people need to move out of the city. Do you think that is a viable option?
It's not possible. It's a very good option for the people who live in Giri area. Where they will move? Back to their countryside? Back to countryside, people want to move unless they have very good job opportunities there.
But there isn't, basically.
They don't have job opportunities in countryside. They don't have enough income generation in countryside. That's why these people came here. So the very good option is to grow our economy, to make it more sustainable, more inclusive, to give everybody employment, to generate. In that way, we can somehow tackle this very huge problem.
Okay, moving on to our next topic. Last week, a number of government agency heads were replaced. A new head of the Independent Authority Against Corruption was appointed, and a major corruption scandal shook Parliament its core last October. And the previous head fought against these people and wanted these people who did these crimes, misappropriation of state funds, to lose their status and maybe get demoted or lose basically their status as MPs. Last week, the new head promised that he will fight against the corruption and will open more cases against it. But your thoughts on the new head, the new leadership of the Independent Authority Against Corruption? Will he take any stance against people who misappropriate funds from the SME Development Fund?
I hope so. Like any other citizen in this country, I hope so that he will continue. He will continue the policy of his, previous colleague. So we are people, just ordinary people, are very much hoping to see that corruption cases will be resolved, and the members of parliament who misused that small medium-sized enterprise development fund money loan, they need to take on some responsibility to make them accountable for this crime. It's crime. It's not loan. People say it's loan, just loan. The members of parliament. As an economist, I would say it's misuse. It's a crime.
Yes.
It's crime. So we are hoping that new head of this agency, anti-corruption agency, will continue this policy and will restore the people's confidence in the system.
And how can he do that? What should he do to bring the confidence back to government and to law enforcement agencies, basically?
So first thing that he needs to follow the regulations and laws, and according to laws, who committed a crime, these people needs to take responsibility. He needs that new head of the anti-corruption agency needs to bring these people to the court. For example, he needs to call the remaining members of parliament to strip their immunity, parliament member immunity, to bring them to the court. So that's that way this anti-corruption agency and other authorities in government, they will restore the people's confidence and trust in government, in the court system, in judiciary, in anti-corruption practice in this country.
So, what if he doesn't do that, basically? What if he does not present what his previous predecessor did? Like he did not. What if he does not present cases to Parliament saying we need to strip these MPs' immunities, basically?
Yeah, it all depends how he will behave. Whether he will serve people or whether he will serve some political party, ruling political party, or whether he will serve the current president. So it will depend on his preference, maybe. We really hope that he will serve the ordinary people. And that's why we're still waiting from him some steps to be taken. But it's only 2 weeks after he was appointed. We didn't hear anything from him through the social media and mass media, so we don't know exactly. But as you know, previously in what happened in January this year, when his previous the director of this anti-corruption agency said that these people need to bring the court, or also general prosecutor in Gamgalan also said he didn't succeed. Of course. He didn't succeed. So from all this, I can make some conclusion as a researcher that this parliament doesn't want that this case was resolved. These members of parliament are very keen to silence, as it say in English, that stonewall this case, the SME Development Fund corruption case, until the end of their term. My guess is if that anti-corruption agency and general prosecutor in parliament itself won't work in cooperation to bring these people to the court, people, just ordinary people in this country, will make their decision. And next year, as you know, we all know that we will have parliamentary election. Next June 2020, just ordinary people will say no to this ruling government, ruling political party. Next 2021, we will say, ordinary people will say no to this current president when he will try to re-elect it. So people's mind, people's confidence is not so little thing. It's very huge thing.
Do you think that, as you said, in the next election, will people see justice after the election? Maybe will this commissioner, the head commissioner of the Independent Authority Against Corruption, will he prosecute the people? Maybe my guess, maybe these parliament members will lose power, and maybe after that will he prosecute these people?
I hope so, because these people will have not so much immunity like parliament member after June 2020. If they want re-elected, these people needs to be taken to the court, and this head of the anti-corruption agency is also making some calculation on that. Maybe I hope so.
On that note, we will end today's program. Thanks for watching Defacto Review, and thanks to Dr. Atontogus for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
We'll see you next time on MMB World. Goodbye.